الأيام فتى وتنحت جسمك الساعات نحتا وتدعوك المنون دعاء صدق ألا يا صاح أنت أريد أنت أراك تحب عرسا ذات خدر أبت طلاقها الأكياس بتا تنام الدهر ويحك في غطيط بها حتى إذا مت انتبهتا فكم ذا أنت مخدوع وحتى متى لا ترعوي عنها وحتى أبا بكر دعوتك لو أجبتا إلى ما فيه حظك لو عقلتا إلى علم تكون به إماما مطاعا إن نهيت وإن أمرتا ويجلو ما بعينك من غشاها ويهديك السبيل إذا ضللتا وتحمل منه في ناديك تاجا ويكسوك الجمال إذا عريتا ينالك نفعه ما دمت حيا ويبقى ذكره لك إن ذهبتا هو العضب المهند ليس ينبو تصيب به مقاتل من أردتا وكنز لا تخاف عليه لصا خفيف الحمل يوجد حيث كنت.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه أمهات المؤمنين وعلى من اتبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm your host Karim Abu Zaid, and this is another edition Ask Imam Karim live show. And today or tonight in some areas, brothers and sisters in Islam, we have a very special guest, that is Dr. Bilal Phillips. Also a very important subject, which is the significance of Islamic education. We will have a short discussion with the doctor, inshallah. In my assessment, he is a pioneer once it comes to this field. If history is written later on, and I don't know, I'm sure he doesn't really worry about this much, but I wanted to say this before he comes live with us. He will be written amongst those who advocated for Islamic education, especially for Muslim communities living in the West. Brothers and sisters in Islam, some of you may not be aware of the gravity and the significance of this subject, because we have two issues. They teach our children in a non-Muslim educational system that there is no God. You can live without God. God has no place in your lives. Life can be good without Allah. Things can be perfect without Allah. Imagine that. So that's one very dangerous area. And this is why you're noticing that atheism in Muslim communities is in the rise. Of course, the second and in my opinion, a mounting and rising issue is the morality, the genders and all of this. I don't want to take away from the time, and I want to bring in Dr. Bilal Phillips. Inshallah, let me see if he's out there with us, and then we can begin our broadcast, inshallah, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Brothers and sisters in Islam, the phone numbers will be made available for you to call. That is 303 right here, 500 5101, inshallah. So please make sure that you give us a call, inshallah. So I'm trying to call the Sheikh, but unfortunately he's not picking up. So maybe we're gonna try this again, inshallah. Okay. Let me see here. Are you there? Hopefully he's there. Are you there? I'm calling. Okay, Dr. Bilal, are you there? I'm calling you. It says that you're active, alhamdulillah. So that's good news. The phone number is right there. So, okay, I guess we have him right here. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Dr. Bilal, how you doing?
I'm fine, alhamdulillah. I have a number of systems running at the same time.
MashaAllah. Can you hear us loud and clear? Can you see us? Can you hear us? Dr. Bilal? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay,
I can hear you, but
you're live now.
okay. Let me just.
Yeah, perfect. May Allah reward you. Good to have you, Dr. Bilal.
My pleasure.
So you do not need an introduction, do you?
No, I don't think so.
I made an.
Let me just clear.
Okay.
Let me just clear. Let me just clear this and come back.
That's okay. We'll wait for you, inshallah, bidnillah. So Dr. Bilal will be back. Brothers and sisters in Islam, like I said, the importance and the significance of Islamic education, you need to realize this. The success of the Prophet ﷺ, which obviously was guided by divine, was not just in executing what he was commanded to execute. Rather, his success was in creating what we call namudaj, a template, role models, to simply carry on the work after him. And if you look at the amount of... All right, we have the doctor here back. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, good to have you.
MashaAllah.
I said something, and I really want to be fair to you. I said I'm going to say it in his absence. He may not like me saying it in his presence. In my opinion, that's my opinion, and people may, say that's not right. If history to be written about education in the West, I think you will come number one to raise awareness regarding this subject. Because a lot of Muslims were under the impression that it's okay to go to these non-Muslim or non-God-driven kind of education system, and their kids will come out okay. And even they would justify it, Sheikh, by the notion that, well, we live in a country where there is a separation between God and state, but they didn't realize that this is the problem. that you're actually telling your children that there is no God. You can function without God. Life is good without God. You can be happy without God. And that's what's happening. So our theme, Dr. Bilal, is the significance of Islamic education. And with your permission, I would like this to be focused on Muslims living on a predominant non-Muslim communities, like us here in the US. Can you take it from there, please?
Inshallah. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. All praise is due to Allah, and may Allah's peace and blessings be on the last messenger of Allah. brothers and sisters present. As you already heard, the topic is Islamic education and its importance in the life of Muslims, particularly Muslims in the West, but actually there is no need to draw a line. The need, whether in the West or in the East, is the same. The need for what we could call an Islamized
فت فؤادك الأيام فتى وتنحت.
Technical issues here.
An Islamized education is one in which the knowledge that is being conveyed in secular systems, whether in the West or the East, that knowledge is presented from an Islamic perspective. This is the bottom line. I mean, there are different perspectives, as you mentioned. In the secularized system, God is taken out of the equation. He has no place. So we just look at things, from a worldly perspective without any spiritual, religious thought or reflection. It is education for a purpose which serves the needs of the civilization. So when we actually, when we look at education in and of itself, the definition, and there are many, many definitions for it, but the one which really struck me as summing it up, is the one which stated that education is the process by which a society conveys its cultural values to the next generation. This is very important.
Yep.
It
Values.
is the process by which a society or community or civilization conveys its cultural values.
Is the teacher,
It's not talking
the
about
teacher, Dr. Bilal, the teacher, the environment.
mathematics. It's not just mathematics, science, geography. These are the, you could say, the vehicles by which the values of a given culture or civilization are conveyed, meaning that everything is given in a package. It's packaged. It's not just free and open. No, it is packaged in a particular way. And in Western civilization, that package is a secular package, meaning no place for religion, God, etc., etc. Whereas we as Muslims, we have a responsibility to convey our cultural values, which are the values of Islam, to the next generation, our next generation, right? Preserving the culture, which is Islam, as we said, belief, practice, etc., all the different components of Islam. We are, in fact, conveying that to the next generation. We should recognize that. So, in other words, it is not possible for us to do that if it is left to others who don't share our cultural values.
Right.
So our children, whether in the East or the West, will be raised with the cultural values of Western civilization, Western secular civilization. I mean, of course, it's not to say there's no religion in the West and nobody believes in God. No, we're not saying that. What we're saying is that in the sphere of education, it was decided that what? It was decided that religion has no place. Because there are many religions. I mean, they had their own rationale. We're not going to say this was just blindly done without any thought. No, they had a rationale. There were too many, Christian sects that had different ideas, etc. So which one were you going to follow? It's confusion. So the easiest way, get rid of them all and just go with, the cold, hard facts. So this was their approach. Whereas for us as Muslims, we know Prophet Muhammad ﷺ clearly laid down a cultural foundation for Muslim society. That clear foundation was stated in the well-known hadith, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I was only sent to perfect for you the highest of moral character traits. So this is the core of Islamic culture. It is a moral core. It's a moral foundation. And everything in Islam points in that direction, towards morality. And this is why it's very important when we look at something like, our 5 pillars of Islam. We tend to think, and it is normally taught, 5 pillars, you just memorize the shahada, the salah, the fasting, the zakah, the hajj, boom. The kids memorize that, that's it. And okay, how do you do it? Okay, you're supposed to, shahada, you have to say, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For salah, you got to, you raise your hands, you do this, you say that, you do it. But where are the moral principles? Mm-hmm. It's not being taught. So this is a problem that we're faced with. I mean, if we look into the depths of the shahada, we will see that it teaches openness and honesty. If we look into the depths of salah, we know that it teaches us a consciousness of God, piety. If we look into the depths of fasting, we know it teaches us patience. In zakah, it teaches us generosity. In hajj, it teaches us to be unprejudiced. The whole of humankind is one. We all came from Adam. We see that in hajj, living and patience. So the point is that we have failed to a large degree in modern education to not include these moral principles. So we have our job cut out for us that we need to do anyway. But now if we go back to that knowledge, the knowledge which is being conveyed by the educational system, the knowledge, we have our own perspective. For them, knowledge is just accumulated from wherever it came, from human beings. They don't consider God as a factor in knowledge. The discoveries that people have discovered, the experiments that they have done, the research that they've carried on, etc., etc. There's no God in here. This is just plain science. Whereas for us, all real knowledge comes from Allah. That's where we start from. So when we are teaching, our children, we have to give them that foundation of that connection with Allah.
The source of knowledge.
No. We know that. This is the basis of it there. Mm-hmm. So our whole approach towards knowledge is that knowledge is either revealed to the prophets, the messengers of Allah, or it is acquired by us by the will of Allah.
Yes.
Allah is the one who has provided that knowledge for us.
So
we
Dr.
always...
Newton found the gravity by the will of Allah. Or was it Newton?
Yeah. The apple hit him on the head, and
It was the will of Allah. We don't teach that, but we turn Newton into a god. That Newton now is the source of the gravity. Obvious. Yes.
Yes. So the point here now is that we have this humble approach to knowledge, and we should be what? Thankful to Allah for that knowledge. So this is that realizing and understanding the source of knowledge should develop in us a sense of gratitude. Alhamdulillah. That is, and that's what we have to teach our children, our young people in our educational institutions. We always have to take them back to that point, where it came from. Where did this knowledge come from? We should be grateful to Allah. We know, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. This is Allah's promise. If we are thankful, Allah will increase that knowledge. So this is our foundation in terms of how we approach knowledge. And then, when we go to the process of acquisition of knowledge, how do we acquire knowledge? We should realize that knowledge should have priorities. We can't learn everything at one time. We have to start somewhere. So for us, our educational system, it should have a beginning point. Where does it all come from and spread out from? Okay, that priority of knowledge should be determined by the content. What is the most important content that we could possibly study? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is where our knowledge is supposed to begin from. So this is number one. Primary.
Can I say something in this regard, just to give you a little break there? I always say this in my khutbahs. When we die and they carry us to the graves and they dig a hole in the ground 6 feet under, and they cover us up with sand and dirt, and they leave us alone, the first question will be asked in the grave by 2 angels is about Allah. Man Rabbuk. So that should be the priority.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the way we have to answer. So this is the beginning point. Our knowledge should always be taken from that perspective, from knowledge of Allah. This is the first and most important area of knowledge that we should give our children in our educational institutions. So we can say that the first, the priority is religious knowledge. The second level is that of life skills. This is our acquired knowledge. Life skills. What we need to do to be a carpenter, to be a plumber, to be a teacher or whatever. Then the third level is that when we're dealing with knowledge, after we dealt with the religious knowledge and life skills, we have to understand that revelation should always be given precedence over reason. It's knowledge. Revelation, there's knowledge that comes from revelation. And we have reason. Allah has given us the capacity to reason, to think, to compare, but we have a principle which has to govern this area of revelation, that we don't put reason over revelation. Revelation comes first. After we've received the revelation, we've understood the revelation, we use our reasoning powers to implement that revelation. That's the approach. It's not that we use our reason first, and decide whether we will consider this revelation or not. No. Revelation should precede reason. And then the fourth principle with regards to acquisition of knowledge is that we should distinguish between true and false knowledge. That's why I said in the beginning that all true knowledge, real knowledge, comes from Allah. Because we have a body of knowledge, which is nonsense. It's fake, it's lies, it's made up, it's false, but it's being promoted as reality, as fact,
like going to the moon when we have not even fulfilled our commitment to Earth.
No, I wouldn't put going to the moon in this category.
Okay.
What I would put in this category is evolution.
Okay.
Evolution, creation of life. We will never be able to create life. Finding a cure for death. we have there's a whole bunch of areas
you're not gonna die.
Very busy on.
You're not gonna die.
Trying to find the God particle.
Yeah.
The ultimate what everything is built from. So we will know the universe, gain control. Nonsense. So what happens is the result of that, when we separate the false knowledge, then we're left with what is fact and valuable and beneficial, and we utilize. Now, what you were talking about was the next area, which is the area of useful and useless knowledge.
That's
because we can go to the moon. There's knowledge there. There's benefit there, but the point is that the money and effort to go to the moon, we need it here on the ground. This is the point. That should be used here. When we've finished and used up everything we need to do here, okay, then we can look at the moon and start figuring out what we can do with the moon. Okay, then Mars after that, no problem. But not now, So this is a matter of useful and useless knowledge, making these kinds of distinction. Then also when we're talking about going into areas of knowledge, we have to determine, which is appropriate knowledge and which is inappropriate knowledge. Now people don't even think about this, but from an Islamic perspective, if we have our children or our young people who look up to us, etc., they're gonna go study medicine, and they tell you, listen, I plan to specialize in gynecology. You say, no, brother, this is not appropriate for you. Gynecology, let that be the specialization for women.
Yeah.
Let them specialize. This is a woman's thing, Of course, as a doctor, you will learn about gynecology. So in cases of emergencies, etc., you know what to do. But
shouldn't be your specialty.
Your area that you specialize in. You're dealing with 24 hours a day, 24/7. No, brother. Leave that one. Similarly, if there's a sister who wanted to study and specialize in prostate cancer. Well, sister, okay, please. Prostate cancer, leave that for the brothers. Leave it for the brothers. Let the men handle that. That is, it's good, yes. As a doctor, you will learn about it and you know what to do if it happens and whatever. But appropriate and inappropriate. So, following that, if we're moving on in terms of understanding education and defining in the midst of it all, what is Islamic education? Because see, this is what we're saying. Islamic education is going to begin with Allah. It's going to be focused on moral teachings and moral understandings. That's the foundation of everything. It's so and so. So now if we look at the ultimate goal, what is the goal of education? I don't know, when I went to university, they used to tell us, knowledge for the sake of knowledge. Mm-hmm. Don't make a particular goal. No, it's just knowledge for the sake of knowledge. So, from the Muslim perspective, the Islamic perspective, no. Knowledge is for the benefit that we can get from the knowledge. That's the importance of the knowledge, the benefit we can get. So it is knowledge for application, not just knowledge to reflect and think and philosophize, and no, knowledge for benefit. As the Prophet ﷺ had said, خَيْرُ النَّاسِ
أنفعهم للناس.
أنفعهم للناس.
No.
This is it. You know, the best of people are those who are the most beneficial to society, to the people. So this is the approach. And you know, we know that even from the examples of the Prophet ﷺ's companions, how they used to learn the Quran, you know, 10 verses at a time, and they wouldn't proceed on to the next one until they understood what was in the first 10, and they tried to act upon it, then they would move on. I mean, now we just sit and we memorize the whole thing, we didn't apply any of it. And the Quran is cursing us. A'udhu billah. So, you know, this is, our approaches have changed, you know, have become distorted. Now, when we look at education in terms of the secular goals, Western goals, it is for material benefit, to earn a living, right? Devoid of morality. It's just about earning and benefiting in this life. Whereas from our perspective, from Islamic perspective, the seeking of knowledge is ibadah. The Prophet ﷺ had said, as we all know, we all learn, you know, talab al-ilmi farida ala kulli Muslim. This is a standard which we all know about. And we all remind our children, our family members, our relatives, etc. We have to constantly be seeking knowledge. So, now if we go to the institutions themselves, from where we're going to get Islamic education, we have two groups of institutions. One I call the Muslim school, the other one the Islamic school. Some people say, oh, it's the same thing. The Muslim school is Islamic school. No. We say that if we look at the Muslim school and we look at it from the perspective of the owners of the school, the owners of the Muslim school are basically, or usually, businessmen or businesswomen.
Demand and supply.
Are looking for some place to invest their monies and increase their wealth. It's for financial success. Mm-hmm. They are driven by what? Supply and demand.
Yeah, exactly.
So you go looking to see where is the biggest demand, and then you are the supplier.
Yeah.
You make the money. You know, you live happily ever after. This is the approach. This is the mentality. You know, whereas the Islamic school, the owners, founders, etc., are Muslims looking to worship Allah through service to the Ummah. A whole different perspective. They're not, of course, they're not going to set up something which is a financial loss and put them in the hole, and you know they're going to be owing people money, debts, and no. Of course, you know they have common sense. So they must do it in such a way that it is viable, it's sustainable. But their intent fundamentally is not profit. That's what they're going after, making as much money as they can. So it's ibadah for them. For the businessmen, it's not ibadah. No, ibadah is in the masjid. You know, you want to make ibadah, go to the masjid. Not in the school. So when we look then to the next level, that of the administration of the Islamic school or Muslim school, the administration which is coming down from the Muslim school, whose owners are business people, The administration will have the strictly business attitude. This is their approach. This is strictly business. Don't come in and ask for any special concessions or considerations or, pour this one and zakat and no, this is strictly business, right? This is their approach, right? And quite possibly they're unqualified because the owners who is looking for profit, he's not going to go and find the top administrator who is going to demand a big salary. He's going to find the cheapest thing he can get because that's how he makes his money. The cheaper it's costing you to produce, the more profits you're going to get. So he's looking at strictly in that. Oftentimes, this kind of administration, they'll be lazy. They'll be, working hard. When the businessman who owns the place comes, they'll, they're active and so on and so. As soon as he's gone, then they lay back, relax. They're not into the education per se, They will be cutting corners. They'll be cutting corners left and right. Whereas the administration of the Islamic school, these will be qualified people because the founders know, as they say, garbage in, garbage out. Mm-hmm. So if your school is just garbage, it's run in a garbage, then you're going to produce garbage. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have an effective school, you must have qualified, dedicated, not just qualified, but dedicated people who are dedicated to the same goals as you. Those goals of worshiping Allah through service to the Ummah. Because they could be very highly qualified, but they are so dunya oriented that they will not serve the goals in the best way. They're still much better than the strictly business people, right? Then now if we look down at the teachers, this is now on the ground level. Education, Muslim school, education of our children. In the case of the business proposition of the businessmen who are exploiting the need of the community for a school, those teachers, they will tend to get salaried workers, people who have no real dedication to education and that. They just want to get paid. They got a degree, or maybe they don't have a degree, because even in these kind of schools too, oftentimes to cut corners, because to get good, properly trained, qualified teachers, it's costly. So, no, we get so and so. Oh, my sister, she has her daughter. She did a course in university, whatever. They put her in the school. They're pulling from family members and people from all over the place, and they make up the teachers now. Teachers are,
family,
to a large degree, unqualified.
Right.
Also, their attitude, they will be late to class. They will be rough with the children. There will be bad examples. They will have favorites, who they will be nice to and kind to and happy with. And then the other kids who, that's not their favorites, well, they just ignore them. So this kind of behavior. Whereas in the Islamic school, again, the teachers will be shepherds. Right. كلكم راع, all of you are shepherds. وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. And each and every one of you is responsible for his flock. So that teacher from the Islamic school is a shepherd. He or she feels a duty to the children. They are qualified. If they're not, they go get those qualifications. They know, because if they're not qualified to properly educate the children, then they're cheating them. This is deception. And they are good examples. They don't show favoritism in the classroom, they don't come late, all the different characteristics of a good teacher, they display them. And in the end, we can see in the time, of graduation at the end of every school year, when they give out the prizes, for the best student. In the business school, the business venture, they will give the prizes for the highest marks. The student that got the top marks. And what does that produce in the school? The kids want to get that prize. They want to get those top marks by any means necessary.
Even cheating.
So, exactly. That is the most effective means necessary. You understand? They become expert cheats. They cheat their way from one grade to the next.
I heard you say at one of your I think lectures about Medina and Quran test.
But not just that. I mean, I've been to Muslim schools across the world, and cheating is as systemic as it is in non-Muslim schools. No difference. In the Muslim school, the Islamic school, that prize is given for the child with the best character.
Yeah.
All the teachers are keeping track of the character points. When the kids do good, then they've gone out their way and so on. So they're keeping it. And in the end, at the end of the year, give for the best character. After that, you can give a smaller cup for the best
grades.
marks.
Yeah.
But when you make the best marks as the goal, then you are just pushing the kids to cheat. And this is a big problem.
That's an unrecognized point, Dr. Bilal, wallahi, even in our Islamic schools. And I hope we have Al Minhal Academy we're building up now, so hopefully we join hand with the International Open University, inshallah. I'm actually going to bring that point up. I asked them to watch you today, but we'll bring it up because, people worry, even parents. Parents are worried about the scores their children are making on math, science, language arts, but none of them worry about the improvement in their characters.
Behavior.
Yeah, and behavior. Yeah.
That's key. So the last point, because of course this is a huge topic that I would like to make in terms of what can we do in a circumstance where the curriculum has already been set for us, as in the US or Canada, UK, in the West, actually all around the world. The curriculum has been set. So what do you do? How do you Islamize? Some countries, they allow you to set up your own school and make your own curriculum, etc., but it's rare. It does exist. But for most people, the government has already set, or the state has already set, and so you have a curriculum you have to abide by. What do you do?
We have a process here, Dr. Bilal, called the accreditation, that you have to meet certain, teach certain curriculum to be accredited and recognized, and your graduates can receive the benefits of scholarships and so forth. So you're right.
So what do? We can establish a process by which all of our subjects becomes integrated with Islamic knowledge, becomes Islamized, as we could say. The whole environment and content, we work on that Islamization from that perspective. Without changing the curriculum, and going against the authorities. So I would say first thing that we need to establish in the school. I have 5 points. 5 points. I'll try to bring them across briefly. The first is the environment of the school. The environment of the school should be an Islamic environment. There should be reminders of Islam everywhere. In the lower grades especially, where images, pictures become very, very important. We should be careful. Every single picture that we put on the wall in the classroom or on the walls of the school, these pictures should carry with them an Islamic message. As they say, ancient Chinese proverb, one picture is equal to 1,000 words. Yeah. Truly. So we have to be very, very selective in the environment of the school in terms of the pictures, in terms of the behavior, classroom behavior. There's an environment in the classroom. Does the teacher walk in the classroom and say, "Hi, how are you all doing? Come on, blah, blah." Oh, you come in. Assalamu alaikum. That's part of environment. Mm-hmm. Somebody sneezes, you say what? Gesundheit? Alhamdulillah. Yarhamukallah. So all of these basic habits should be established around the school.
And their meanings too, Dr. Bilal. Not just the lip service.
The meaning, yes.
Their meanings, yeah.
Exactly. Everything that we put up in Arabic or we say in Arabic, people should understand. Mm-hmm. So that's one level, the environment of the classroom. And just to give an example, there's a picture that is commonly made for schools, found in bookstores, school bookstores, etc. Is a picture which is standard for knowing the body parts. It's a picture of a little boy. He's standing with his hands to his side, and he's wearing underwear, and he stands there. Then there's an arrow pointing to his head, says head, eyes, mm-hmm. ears, shoulders, all the way down to feet. This picture, I found it from New York City to Manila, Philippines. Everywhere, all the schools have it. So I said to them, we are Muslims. We are telling the children about aura. Cover your aura. And here we are with this picture that we're teaching the body parts with. Let him wear a pair of shorts. Oh, but the picture comes like that. Well, art department, please. Art department, they paint on a pair of pants on him. Okay? Shorts to the knees. Okay? That's the aura is covered. Navel to knee. Covered. Put a cap on his head. So the kids, it's a Muslim boy.
Yeah.
Message is there. Something has been said in that. Very briefly. Moving on to the content, right? On one hand, whatever we are studying, whatever field that we study, there's no doubt that some Muslim scholar of the past has spoken on it, invented something related to it, etc. Part of our problem that we're faced with today is that the knowledge that we learn in the textbooks is wiped clean of Muslim input, as if Muslims never contributed anything to human civilization. Everything was from Greece, Rome, Europe. That's it. But is that the fact? Fact of the matter is that Muslims were great inventors. So the same way that the child should know or knows Sir Isaac Newton that you mentioned, Einstein, Madame Curie, and these names, everybody knows. Oh, who is that? Everybody knows. They should know also who is Al-Hasan ibn al-Haytham. Because if you go to the Muslim schools of the US, for example, and you go around and you ask the graduating students, do you know who Al-Hasan ibn al-Haytham is? They're all going to look at you and say, huh? Hasan ibn al-Haytham? He's a football player? He plays with the French squad? Or, like Zainuddin Zidane? Is that? They have no idea. They don't know that he was a genius in the field of, optometry, of light, and even designed a camera.
Mm-hmm.
In the 12th century. He designed a camera and how a camera works, but didn't have film, etc., to capture the images and stuff. But he
started
designed it from then. He was a genius, So the same way, the students, everything they learn, they should know the connection with what Muslims have contributed in these fields. So they should feel a part of that whole, civilizational, evolution. So relevance, we have to give the material historical relevance. The third is a Quranic verse. Virtually every subject that they teach in school, there is some Quranic verse that is related to it. From ba'id, from far, or from close, you can bring something. But the point is that we're not saying to turn the class into a tafsir class, where you're now giving them a big, long, juz from the Quran, and you're giving long tafsirs. No. Just take the portion of the verse that's relevant, put that on the wall. It's in Arabic, the English translation underneath. Just let them know the subject we're taking today is water cycle. Okay, there's verse from the Quran, or Maraj al-Bahraini yaltaqiyan, the two seas coming together. It's there. Show them a picture of it. Connects. Just to know that Quran is relevant. It's not just a book that we keep on a shelf. We take it out in Ramadan or on certain occasions, etc. No. The Quran is relevant. Allah has spoken about virtually everything that you can think of. So, same way, point 4 is hadith. Find a hadith. And of course, this means a bit of work from your teachers, so it means that you have to pay them extra. That's one of the things too, because once teachers hear this, they say, he's bringing more work on our
extra
shoulders.
resources. Yeah.
No, if the administration says, we'll pay you. Whatever additional material that you bring and add to your lesson plans, etc., we will pay you. So it's their right. You ask them to do more work. So you do that. Then the last point, the fifth, is what we call the moral lesson. And this is, again, going right back to the beginning that we talked about. إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِيُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. That in every single class, a moral lesson should be taught. And the first thing the teachers will ask me, okay, sir, could you explain to us how you give a moral lesson or Islamize in our mathematics class for grade 2 or grade 1, 2 plus 2 equals 4. Could you Islamize that for us, please? So I say, okay. You tell the children, in the morning, when you get up in the morning to pray, you pray 2 rak'at of sunnah, right? They all agree, 2 rak'at of sunnah. And then you follow that with what? 2 rak'at of fard.
Yeah.
So then, how many rak'at did you just pray?
4.
Arba.
Yeah.
4. We just prayed 4. Okay, so that is at least giving it an Islamic perspective. On the other side, to bring in a moral message, you have what they call word problems that you have to give the kids. So you say, for example, Ahmed's mother gave him $2 when he went to school. Whilst he was at the school, he was playing with his friends, you know, his $2 fell out of his pocket. So one of his friends playing there also saw the two fall, but he's following the principle of finders, keepers, losers, weepers. So he gets the two and he puts it in his pocket.
No.
Okay. So Ahmed, when he goes home, you know, he's crying. He can't find his $2. You know. So his mom said, "It's okay, it's okay." Ahmed gave him another $2. Then his friend, you know, the thought came to him, "A'udhu billah, I guess I shouldn't do that. It's haram. I shouldn't. This is stealing. So let me go and give it to Ahmed's mom." So he goes to the house. He takes his $2 and he gives the $2 to Ahmed's mom. Ahmed's mom is very happy. She took the $2 and received it, and she gave it to Ahmed. So how many dollars does Ahmed have?
Yeah, beautiful message. Yeah.
That's
Four.
4.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you've taught the message. But no, you don't end the story there. The mother also gives $2 to Muhammad, you know, who brought those $2. She gives him also. So he also feels good, you know, he has done good and he's gotten good. MashaAllah, it turned out good for him. So you have a message there on that side that doing good will bring good. And you know, hal jaza'ul ihsani illa al-ihsan. Is there any good for, you know, reward for good other than good? So here it comes. And then for the other boy, he has $4 now. You've told your story, 2 + 2 = 4, and you've given your solid moral message.
Very profound, very beautiful, Dr. Bilal, wallahi, inshallah. Jazakallah khair for this presentation. I know it's way longer than that, but you managed to do it in a record time.
Yeah, this is a 5-day.
Yeah,
this is a 5-day
it is.
course.
Yeah, I seen it. It's a very, and it's available, by the way. If you are in the field of education, this is something that you should, actually, you must go and at least explore. You will find it very beneficial if you're a principal, if you're a teacher, regardless, by the way, whether you don't have to be an Islamic studies teacher, just teaching in an Islamic environment. Dr. Bilal, we have a couple of queries here or questions, and then we'll allow the viewers to come and ask their questions as well, inshallah. We'll display our phone number here, so this way they can actually start calling if they feel interested. But the first thing is, as you know, Islamic schools are not funded by the government. We don't have these vouchers in some states. So for us to offer Islamic education to families, they may not afford it. There is the alternative, which is homeschooling. But a lot of these parents too, themselves are actually trying to learn English. They are immigrants. They don't even know. And homeschooling or online schooling would take a lot of mentoring and tutoring. So they left with no option. They say darura, even though they may hear that message, but they see themselves left with no solution. Islamic schools are expensive. We cannot afford it. Online education, we cannot help our children at home. There is something in the middle there. Can you suggest for them?
Well, first and foremost, they must understand, as I said in the beginning, that this is the right of their child. It's the right of a Muslim child that he or she be given an Islamic education. That's their right. So as they say, by hook or by crook, you've got to give it to them. Otherwise you will be asked on the Yawm al-Qiyamah, why didn't you? So you have to take it with that kind of seriousness. And then now you try to find how to do it given your circumstances. This is how it has to be approached. So whether it is through the homeschools, families that are doing homeschooling who are experienced, etc., that you may join with them in the homeschooling process. You're not a teacher. You're not trained as a teacher, as you said. Your English is not sufficient to really do anything. But the homeschool, for it to run, it requires people in doing a number of different things, not just teachers. So you can be supportive in some other capacity other than teaching. Whether it means you take the kids to the park. This is part of the program. You take them to the park. You accompany them to the park. You oversee them in the park, and then you get them back again. But there's somebody else who's actually teaching them in their various lessons, etc. The other thing is online. That we develop online schools. I've been trying to do it for about the last 15 years, but haven't managed to do it, to find the people committed to this, to make it happen. I've found a couple of schools, but the people who set them up are more secularist in their orientation, etc. So, and the non-Muslims, they've got many. They've set up many of these schools, online schools that you can study from all around the world. But we have been negligent in this area, very backwards in this area. This is most critical for us.
Yeah.
You have many Americans, non-Muslims, many Americans who, are distrustful of the educational system, and they want alternatives. And so they've gone into homeschooling in a big way, massive way.
I always tell the Muslim family or the Muslim members, community members, who started homeschooling in America. Actually, devout non-Muslims, to their own, whether we believe it's right or wrong, but in their opinion, that's their belief system, and they believe that going to the public school system will compromise their belief system, which we consider distorted. So they actually the one who started and who pushed this, that we have it now available in our... I have a question, Dr. Bilal, from Sharjeel. He is from London. A lot of Muslims came to the US or came to Europe. He's actually from Europe. And they became so much westernized to the extent that they don't believe in any of this stuff. He's a family member. He's asking, how can I approach them to warn them against their take on Islamic education, and they're being infested in secular approach of education regarding their children?
Well, it's not about convincing your family members, which may depend on what their kinds of positions are, what is your relationship with them, and there's many different factors. This isn't the way to go. The best way for you is to join with those people who are trying to set up alternative educational programs. Be a part of their effort. Support their effort, And whilst you're doing it, you might invite those people who don't care about it and so on. So invite them to come from time to time to different gatherings or different occasions, etc., so they can see the alternative in operation. It's not just a theory, an idea, So this is what my advice would be. For you to get into arguments with them, and they're hardcore secularists, and it's you against them and them against you, and there's no point. Yeah.
Clear.
Do something that's going to make a difference. Do something that can help to make a change.
Dr. Bilal, I think a couple of weeks back, myself and yourself came across that interview Brother Eddie had with the Brenda. And amazing, when you sent me that link, I was actually watching it at the moment, because I think maybe Eddie sent it at the same time to both of us. And amazing. I will actually be hosting Brenda next show on Sunday next week to talk further about that and ask her more questions. But you have seen the alarmed, and this is a non-Muslim. She's not a Muslim. This does not, discredit her at all. But I just want to say this is the view of a non-Muslim regarding the gender education in the public school system now. What do you advise us to do? But let me take this caller first, if you don't mind. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum.
Sheikh Karim. My name is Abdurrahman from Vancouver, BC.
Yes, brother Abdurrahman. Do you have a question?
Yes, Sheikh. My question is for you and also Sheikh Bilal.
Abdurrahman, are you there? Abdurrahman? Abdurrahman from Vancouver, he had a question. We can't hear you, Abdurrahman. Maybe you can try later, inshallah. Somehow the line died. Please call us again, we'll pick you up. I may interrupt you if he calls back, Dr. Bilal. But what can we do? I mean, beside, like weeping over this and crying and I mean, this is alarming. I mean, what I watched is mind-blowing, that only Satan can be in charge of that system, that the way that they are intruding into a very sensitive area, that what advice do you give to us here with this growing trending?
Well, for me, the advice which I took myself was Hijrah.
Regarding this, Dr. Bilal, when somehow we all feel that we're gonna go back there, and I'll never forget this day that my daughter, I kept telling her we're gonna go back home. We're gonna go back home. She was born here. You know what she said to me one day? This is home. I'm not going any place. So a lot of us have children.
But you know what I'm saying is that the principle of Hijrah, actually I spoke about this in a lecture I gave in Masjid Masjid Taqwa in Brooklyn, New York, back in 1989. I gave this lecture called The Obligation of Hijrah. And in it, I outlined, because you see, of course, when people hear the word Hijrah, they automatically think, as you said, back home.
Right.
Right. As your daughter said, here's home. Okay, no, because Hijrah, we have different levels of Hijrah. There's Hijrah where you go from country to country, right? As the early first group that went to Abyssinia, that was their Hijrah, right? From Mecca, they went to Abyssinia, to Ethiopia. Right? They left the peninsula and went to another country altogether. But then the Prophet ﷺ made Hijrah from Mecca to Medina. He didn't leave Arabia. He was still there. So there's Hijrah, which we can call internal Hijrah.
Right.
And then there's external Hijrah. So what we needed to do, as the Jewish communities did, they created communities in the various cities and towns, where all of their people congregated. So they were able to create an environment which was culturally safe and supportive of their beliefs and practices.
Like Birmingham.
they call them ghettos and stuff like this, but I mean, we're not looking at it from the perspective of closed, where non-Muslims are not free to come and go and this type of thing. We keep it open, but still, we should concentrate in those areas. The police in those areas should be Muslims. You know, all the different, the shops and the this and the that, and you know, so we don't have any drug dealers selling drugs. We don't have any, you know, pornography. We don't have, all these things are cleaned out of that area, you know. And you have communities like this in America, whether it's, you know, Jehovah's Witnesses do that, and you know, you have you know, the Mormons have done it, you know, and others, you know. So this is, we are not thinking in that line, but that's the only way we're going to survive. Without making that internal hijrah, then we are just fresh meat, you know, for the slaughter.
Yeah. So the hijrah doesn't have, that's what Dr. Bilal is telling us, it can be internal, actually in your locality, you know, be with a community, yes, and build your institutions and build your communities. And that's a key, brothers and sisters in Islam. But beside that, should we be advocates? Like, should we join hands with the whatever body of advocates to combat this trending, or do you think it's a waste of time, waste of energy? I mean, what is your, because it's really growing. It's, you see, right now, you know, with the sexual education here in America and the sexual preferences, they are trying to teach our kids to mute, to be silent. And you know, when I read the story of Prophet Lut alayhi salam, and especially the context of Surah Al-Shu'ara, you know, when they started debating, he said, "Inni li'amalikum min al-qalin." He said that I'm not gonna be silent on this because this is wrong. I'm not gonna be silent. I have to speak out. Yeah, I can't force you like us here. We can force. I know that the country, the system here protects sexual preferences, but we should be able to say at least to our children that this is not pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in that school system now, they want your children to accept that, and that's in itself. I want to say this in a very political way. To turn to be like them, that's the start, really. When you're there, because we know that the moment that you cannot enjoin good and forbid evil with the hand, with the tongue, you go to the heart. You have to really separate. Otherwise, they're going to contaminate your heart. So I don't know what to say, Dr. Bilal, but I think
that's why I said that the only solution is the internal hijrah. It is the only solution.
Right.
It is the prophetic solution.
Right.
It is what changed the whole course of history.
Right.
Muslims were in
Assalamu alaikum.
As we are now.
Yes, name, state, and question, please.
Yeah, my name is Misbah, and I'm calling from New York.
Yes, Sister Misbah.
And my question is, some of my family members are really against secular education, so they pulled off their kids from like, say, 8th grade, because they think that there is no goodness left in science that is taught at the schools, and there is no goodness in math that is taught because it's all interest-based and stuff, like the accounting bit of it. So they consider that there is no goodness left in secular education. There's nothing that education could really offer the kids. So they pulled out their kids, and their kids are doing hifz at home with learning a little bit about hadith and something to do with the Quran and whatnot. So how do we strike a balance? Is there nothing good that secular education can offer the kids?
Jazakallah khairan, Sister Misbah. Will present your question to Dr. Bilal. Hopefully we'll get some guidance there. Dr. Bilal, let me repeat.
I got it.
Yeah, but
it's okay.
Actually, some of the viewers complain that we have to repeat the question because sometimes. So very quickly, If you want to say the question and answer, that's fine. If you want to word it your way, you want to do that? Her question?
Well, okay. The question is about secular education. Whether it is acceptable for putting our children in institutions where they're going to be exposed to secular education. Some people feel there's no value at all in secular education. Up to a certain point, okay, but after that, no point. But, you know, of course, it's not realistic, because we as Muslims in North America, for example, you know, how are we supposed to build our institutions if we don't have architects? You know, how are we supposed to treat our sick if we don't have doctors? All of these areas are critical areas that we should educate our children in. But we need to develop proper educational institutions which will provide modern education, but from an Islamic perspective, as I spoke about earlier. Perhaps our sister who joined us missed the earlier part, but this is the point, that we do need, as Muslims, we should have Islamic institutions that convey modern knowledge along with our religious knowledge. And we said our religious knowledge does come first, but both sides need to be presented, and everything should be in an Islamic package. So your relatives who are pulling their children out of school from grade 8, etc., is harming them. Ultimately, they are harming these young people who will need to have this knowledge later on to carry on their own lives. You know, the parents will die and they're left behind. And what have you left behind?
Yep.
You know, so we have to take practical solutions for these problems. Not go to the extreme. The extreme is just pull them out of the school. The other extreme is just leave them in the school and don't worry about it. You know,
Assalamu alaikum.
Allah Ghafur Rahim. You know,
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dr. Bilal, I'm sorry, I have a caller from Germany. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام شيخ كيف حالكم؟
Alhamdulillah. Name and yeah, Germany, yeah, name and Europe, I guess. Or go ahead, inshallah. Yeah.
Yes, I was there from Germany. I just have a quick question, dear Sheikh. I'm so sorry for the type of questions about just the new controversy that's going on with the da'is in the West. And you know, our brother, our dear brother Sheikh Tahir Wayat of the Yaqeen Institute. Is there any way you guys could spread some light regarding, you know, because all the youngsters, you know, who are responding to these kind of questions, and the elders are not really giving us some light and some guidance, you know, the English-speaking population. Is there any way, because, you know, Sheikh Dr. Bilal, alhamdulillah, and you, Sheikh Abu Zayd, you're also, you know, upon the guidance that we follow. So is there any way you guys could give us some light regarding what we should do and who we can listen to, we cannot listen to? That would be amazing, inshallah ta'ala.
I don't know if you're aware of this issue, Dr. Bilal, or not, but we're putting you in the hot seat here. Basically, we have an institute here in America called Yaqeen. You probably heard about it. Unfortunately, they have some leeway about the subject of sexual orientation. That I don't want to, I want to be careful with my words here. I think they are take it easy. Just everybody's free. But so you have a speaker who may be talking about Quran and Sunnah, but he may appear with a group that exercise immoral and wicked practices that are not accepted in light of Islam. So that in a way confuses the layman. So how do we deal with such institutions here in America? I think that's where the brother is asking, because there was a big thing, you know, about this, and especially when you see some scholars, local scholars who are known to be Quran and Sunnah advocates, you know, they, I don't know if you have enough information or I'm confusing you further. I'm trying to be a little political. So basically, how should we deal with institutions who are not straightforward, 100%? They are trying to be political, more political, once it comes to the subject of sexual preferences. Should we boycott them? Should we advise them? Should we join them? What do you think?
Well, din al-nasiha, we know this basic principle that we should advise. So where, you know, people have taken positions or made certain decisions which are not in keeping with the Islamic teachings, etc. They've bent and twisted some of the teachings in their interpretations, or they simply have just ignored.
Hold on, please. Hold on, please. Hold on, please. Go ahead, Dr. Bilal. I'm sorry.
So ignoring things because of political factors here. I mean, you're walking on, as they say, thin ice, you know, here in America, you know, because what you say, you know, can be the source of them taking away your citizenship and putting you on the next plane out of the country. You know,
but
this all these things
Dr. Bilal, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but on the other hand, you don't have to do that too. Like, you don't have, I mean, nobody is going to force me to be there with them and appear in a public forum and hugging and shaking hands.
So we can say it's a bad choice. Okay.
Okay.
It's a bad choice. It's a mistake. You know, all of that. But in the end, you know, what do? We are in America. Our numbers are limited. Where there are Islamic projects and efforts that require Muslims working together, we should join. But, you know, we should advise people that not to go that way. You know, that's not the best way to go. We do have alternatives, you know. That's the most we can do. This is not an Islamic state where, you know, at least from the top, the rules can come down and everybody is obliged to, you know, to comply.
Clear.
So this is this is the Wild West, you know, every man for himself. So we just try to work with those who have agreed on similar principles.
I want to give my brother in the other side of the Atlantic here a straightforward answer. If you are in position to advise these brothers in a nice, kind way that you could convince them to change their direction, I encourage you to do it. If you can't, then just don't follow their stuff. Don't follow their, just stay away and don't listen to them. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam, Imam Karim.
Yes.
My name is Mohsin. I'm calling from Nashville, Tennessee.
Mohsin, Nashville, Tennessee. What is your question?
My question is regarding Surah 3, verse 130. And somebody is asking, is it counted interest on a riba-based transaction? It is only 50% or.
So, what is? Can you tell me the verse in the surah, because I don't know.
The verse is 130. Surah 3.
Yeah, can you say at least the first couple of words?
Yeah, 130.
Okay.
It says, O you who believe, devour not usury, doubling and quadrupling
If you are believers.
the observe duty to Allah that you want to be successful.
Okay, Jazakallah khair, Barakallah fi. So the question is about usury, Dr. Bilal. I don't know if you want to jump from that aisle to that aisle, but if you can make it brief. So what is your question regarding this? Whether usury is halal or haram or what? I mean, usury is haram, definitely.
The question is it, if you only charge double the money, that is only interest. Otherwise, it is not interest. If you charge 1%, 2%.
Oh, you're talking about the verse in chapter 3, right?
Chapter 3, 1.
Yeah. Okay. I can answer this with your permission, Dr. Bilal. He's talking about a verse in Al Imran regarding usury that don't لا تأكلوا الربا أضعافا مضاعفة. This was one of the stages because we know that this verse was revealed right after Uhud. So the ruling stands, Brother Muhsin, that anything where you get an increase is considered to be usury. So that verse, you need to understand it in context of the Battle of Uhud. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum. Brothers and sisters in Islam, please, if we can keep up our theme here to education would be great. I understand that a lot of you have... how long, Dr. Bilal, you can last with me? I know it's getting late there. It's almost 11 midnight there. Can you take another 10 minutes, please?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, Dr. Bilal, the question that I have here, we are... Okay, let me pick up this caller. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother, my name is Ali Bajwa. I'm calling actually from New York.
Okay.
And Jazakumullah khairan for all the great work you're doing.
Jazakallah khair.
And actually, as a matter of fact, I have heard you live sometime back in Masjid Isa ibn Maryam in Queens, New York.
Yes. Jazakallah khair. Barakallah
khair. I have one question, and I'm going to be very, very precise about it. I know about the ruling of the income you get from YouTube if you have like an adult channel, let's say whatever channel I have, and I have advertisement, and obviously we don't have control over the advertisement, so that's definitely not permissible. One of the brothers reached out to me yesterday, and he asked about that he has a kids YouTube channel, and it's not an Islamic YouTube channel. He's just, I think, just making kids, maybe cartoon and some play videos, just like the kids channel. And he said he has applied for monetization. And I said, do you know that you cannot choose the ads that play over there? He said, I understand, but the question here is that on the kids YouTube channel, they don't play any adult ads. So my question is that permissible to get income from the kids YouTube channel where they don't play adult ads, but they play other ads related to the kids?
Jazakallah khair. We'll ask Dr. Bilal. Dr. Bilal, the ruling regarding YouTube channels and income, you know how they advertise things here. Sometimes, it goes as far as pornography. And what is the ruling of that income? A branch of this, if you control the kinds of ads, like in a kids designed or oriented YouTube channel where there is no adult ads, will that be permissible?
I would say that it would be permissible.
Okay.
If you're dealing with the adult side where it's haram, we have got haram ads, that's clearly impermissible. But so if it's in this kids side and the kids don't have it, but of course, you have to be certain, not just, we think,
So you have to verify that.
Clear, they're not going to bring this stuff.
Right.
And if you're confirmed that there's none of that is involved, then it's possible. Because
Inshallah.
It's just like somebody coming and buying stuff from you in your store. Some people come, the money they got this came from the bank and it had riba on it and they're buying from you. But buying from you, it doesn't affect you.
No.
In that sense, that money is halal to you as long as they're not, purchasing what is haram.
Clear.
So,
go ahead. We have a caller. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother, the phone line keeps cutting. It keeps cutting.
Okay.
For some reason.
Is that Abdul Rahman from Vancouver?
Yes, it's Brother Abdurrahman. Brother, my question was about husn al between the Muslimin, because I remember this hadith, Alhamdulillah, and I'm wondering, how do you develop that within an Islamic community?
Personal.
People don't become suspicious and etc. Things like that.
Okay.
Husn al-dhan.
Yeah, husn al-dhan, yes. Please, if he's relaying to the hadith that the shaitan, that's all he can do is just bring about bad thoughts, su' dhan between us. How can we kick this out, Dr. Bilal?
Well, I think this situation varies from person to person. You know, as a general principle, we should have husn dhan. You know, one should recognize that this is the best way to go. This is the way most pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, but you know, we are all human beings, and given certain circumstances, these thoughts may come. But you know, we seek refuge in Allah from it, because we know that it's coming from satanic sources, etc. And we try to be regular in turning away from it whenever it comes. You know, if we sit and reflect and you know and give it a chance to take root, you know, then we only make things worse for ourselves. I think that in general, I think we should not act. You see, if we have a thought, which is a bad thought, as long as we haven't acted on it or spoken on it, then we're in the realm of what is forgiven. Allah can forgive us for it. You know, we're not held that accountable, because stuff is coming into our heads, you know, from so many different sources, you know, that we are not held accountable for every thought that we have. So we know the key is at least stop ourselves from speaking about it. So at least that's your last line of defense. Don't speak about it. Don't act on it.
Unless you see a material evidence to confirm that. Assalamu alaikum. We have a caller. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yeah, Imam, this is Fatima from Maryland.
Yes, Sister
I have two questions.
Okay.
My sister's son used to go to Islamic school, and she has papers of Quran, you know, not the Quran, but lessons in Arabic and stuff. What can she do with it?
That's one.
How can she dispose it? That's one. And if I'm reciting Qul Huwa Allahu Ahad 3 times, and I start with Bismillah Rahman Rahim, do I have to say Bismillah on every surah? I mean, every time that I'm reciting Qul Huwa?
Crystal.
Or the one Bismillah is enough in the beginning?
Crystal.
That's my question.
So how do we dispose materials and Qul Huwa Allahu Ahad in between, reciting them 3 times, Dr. Bilal?
I think basically you can burn it if it's convenient. You have a incinerator or whatever, you can just incinerate it. That's the easiest and simplest way. Other than that, you know, you have a shredder. I mean, if you have a situation where you're getting this stuff on a regular basis, you know, it's not just occasional, then you know, you invest in a shredder, however much that, it's not very expensive, and just shred it down to the smallest point that you can, and then after that get rid of it.
Clear. Reciting Qul Huwa Allahu Ahad 3 times, do we have to say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim at the beginning of each time?
No, it's not necessary.
Not necessary. So one at the beginning is enough, inshallah. Okay, we have 2 more minutes, Dr. Bilal, if you don't mind, inshallah. We're almost done here. If I write an Islamic children book, should I ensure that I draw the characters without eyes?
It's not an issue. It's a non-issue. You know, people have made it into an issue. You make the characters, whether they have eyes, whether they have noses, mouths, ears, and you know, or not. You know, the allowance for images for children is a general allowance. We can't go and specify it, you know, where there are no, you know, texts to confirm that specification. So it's okay. The only thing is that it's being created for children, etc. The allowance is there. Don't worry about it.
Dr. Bilal, I know it's almost midnight there, and may Allah bless you, Wallahi, for your efforts, for your time, for your energy, for your knowledge, and all of the above. But we are a little bit greedy, and we want to get one last piece of advice from you. But let me just, I started actually the program with this, that the fact that the Prophet ﷺ was successful, one aspect was he was divinely guided to do, but he managed to create that community. After him, this community carried on his work, and actually the impact happened after the Prophet ﷺ passed away. And he built these characters, that model, through education. Unlike we too, you know, as if we want to see a change in this ummah, we may not see it in our time, but we can contribute to it, and the only way we can do this is through education. And this may take a whole generation or two, but we have to keep working on this. Can you please just strengthen our will, because sometimes we get swayed away, and that this is the work of, in my opinion, this is the work where you can make a change. You can build as many masjids as you want. I want to tell you something very interesting happened this last Jum'ah. 2 Jum'ahs before, I was raising fund for the cemetery in my masjid. In 10 minutes, I raised something like $20,000. Last Jum'ah, I was raising fund because I have 20 children in the Minhal Academy. Their parents cannot afford a tuition. So I was asking the brothers to sponsor. You cannot imagine how hard it was to actually, just to show you where the mind of Muslims is. Like a cemetery right away. Wallahi, it didn't even take, just like that. People just came out. But when you talk about education of a Muslim child who will be a moving da'wah in college, maybe in 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, they are still just words of advice to us and to the community, please, Dr. Bilal, at the end, and I promise this is the last thing.
Inshallah. Well, you know, the first point that you made, an extension of what I was saying, that if we don't provide that moral education to the children, to our young people, then we will not change the generation. We will not be able to change the generation. But if we manage, as I mentioned, in every class, the teacher gives the children a moral message. Imagine the child from grade 1 to grade 12, 12 years, every class, a moral message is being drummed into their heads, into their minds, into their hearts, into their souls. Then what kind of student is going to graduate? That is the generation of the Sahaba. That you will now produce a student who will be upright. He cannot be bribed, he cannot be, twisted, he will not steal, cheat, all of that. Finish. You're dealing with a solid, real, committed Muslim, who knows his God, he knows Allah, and he knows his deen. And whatever field he goes into, or she goes into, they are going to do it the right way. They're going to make an impact. So that's the generation we have to create. And we need to create it through the educational system. The existing educational systems will never produce such an individual. So this is where I stress that it's critical. And this is where I will also remind you again too about the importance of the internal hijrah, where we need to create our communities where we can control our environment. Because unless you gain control of the environment, we'll be forever bombarded with alcohol, drugs, and all the other corruptive influences of the general society, and then into our education. So the only way we're going to get out of this is to follow the blueprint of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His blueprint was Medina. We need to recreate Medina in our various cities, in our various states, in our various countries. This is what is on us. This is what changed the situation for Muslims in Arabia in the lifetime of the Prophet Muhammad, and that blueprint has been left until Yawm al-Qiyamah.
No. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Bilal. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you tremendously. Islamic Online University, which is now International Open University, IOU. Brothers and sisters in Islam, you can still acquire your conventional degree, whatever PA and whatever you're doing. But what about an Islamic degree? It's so sad that we come across brothers who have so many PhDs, but you hand over the Quran to them, you talk to them about the Sunnah, they are clean slates. It's not good for the Ummah. Successful professionals, in my opinion, can give so much da'wah and be more effective in their da'wah to the non-Muslims than people like myself who spend their time in a Muslim community. Because when you show that you're professional but meanwhile you hold the morals of Islam, it will make a difference. So I invite you all, please, I'm a firm believer, and people call me all the time, and I'm going to say it, which university do you recommend? Right here, right there, sitting in front of you, International Open University. I'm honored to be a part of their whatever, I'm contributing. I'm doing the Seerah right now actually on their Facebook pages. Go there and like these Facebook pages so you get to know a lot of these programs. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Bilal. The only thing that we owe you is dua, and I know that you value this a lot. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you, protect your family, your offspring, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep the evil away from you, Ya Rabbal Alameen, and strengthen your heart and give you long life with Iman, so you continue to serve us more and serve the Ummah more, Dr. Bilal. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite our hearts always together in serving Allah for His cause, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gather us in this dunya in the path of the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and gather us in Jannah, Ya Rabbil Alameen, with His messenger and prophets. Jazakallahu khairan, Dr. Bilal. I love you all for the sake of Allah. We enjoyed having you, and on behalf of the viewers, we want to say the same thing, and want to say assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair, Dr.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa
assalam wa
barakatuh.
Wa iyaakum. Brothers and sisters in Islam, inshallah, next Sunday we have Brenda. If you want to hear what they are trying to do to your children in the public school system, and she's not a Muslim. She is not a Muslim. And in no way I'm trying to take her down or discredit her. No, I'm just want to tell you that the message is coming from a larger community member. Like Dr. Bilal addressed the subject of education from academia. She want to tell you what they are planning regarding gender and regarding homosexuality and all that stuff in the public school system. So please wait for the broadcast next week. I will be tomorrow at 12 noon back to the Aqidah, the Right Belief series, and also the Seerah on Tuesday at 12 noon, and finally the Higher Aim Surah Al-Mu'minun at 12 noon, inshallah, brothers and sisters in Islam, Denver time, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Please join me, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khaira. I love you all for the sake of Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
فت فؤادك الأيام فتى وتنحت جسمك الساعات نحتا وتدعوك المنون دعاء صدق ألا يا صاح أنت أريد أنت أراك تحب عرسا ذات خدر أبت طلاقها الأكياس بتا تنام الدهر ويحك في غطيط بها حتى إذا مت انتبهتا فكم ذا أنت مخدوع وحتى متى لا ترعوي عنها وحتى أبا بكر دعوتك لو أجبتا إلى ما فيه حظك لو عقلتا إلى علم تكون به إماما مطاعا إن نهيت وإن أمرتا ويجلو ما بعينك من غشاها ويهديك السبيل إذا ضللتا وتحمل منه في ناديك تاجا ويكسوك الجمال إذا عريتا ينالك نفعه ما دمت حيا ويبقى ذكره لك إن ذهبتا هو العضب المهند ليس ينبو تصيب به مقاتل من أردتا وكنز لا تخاف عليه لصا خفيف الحمل